past, we have visited elementary schools and 4-H clubs and educated youth about agriculture. In light of the current circumstances, we know that we have a lot of students who are home and you're doing some e-learning. We thought we'd take this opportunity, since many events that we had planned have been canceled, we thought we'd take this opportunity to go ahead and do some e-learning about agriculture. So we're going to start out. Typically, in Indiana and Ohio, which is where we're located, we raise soybean, corn, and wheat. And this is what each of the grains look like when they leave the field. This is the wheat, this is the corn, and these are the soybeans. When the farmer goes to the field for the first time, he's going to go around with a cultivator. A cultivator is used to smooth the fields over before you plant. When you're cultivating your fields, you can also see problems in the field. Underneath of the soil, sometimes they will have tile. It's also called field tile. That helps drain the water out of the fields if they have large wet spots. Sometimes those tiles can get plugged and it will cause what's called a blowhole. So then they have to go in and fix those things so that they don't have a large wet spot in their field. So why do we cultivate? Think about if you took a cup of soil and you filled it full of water and then you just let it set. It might get crusty and hard. Then if you just threw a seed in it, it wouldn't grow anything because it's a really hard clump of soil like a rock. So by cultivating it, it's kind of like raking it. When you go outside with a rake in your garden, it gets it ready for the seed. Next, we go to the field with a tractor and a planter. The planter is used to put the seed in the ground so that it can grow into big, healthy plants. We then have something called a secondary application. As corn grows bigger, it needs more food to help it grow. The secondary application feeds the corn what it needs. So sometimes people ask us, why do you put fertilizer in the field? When you were a baby, if your mom and dad took you outside and sat you in the rain and just left you there and watched you, do you think you would grow big and healthy and strong? The answer is no. You gotta have some food. It's the same thing with the seed. So, this is called a fertilizer spreader, and this is dry fertilizer. They'll spread things called urea and potash, and that's how they can help the crop grow. That's kind of food for the plant. Next, we go to the field with a sprayer. We use crop protection products to protect them from insects and disease. So what are the things that we're protecting it from? Grasshoppers love to eat crops. So when we use crop protection products, what we're trying to do is to protect the field or the plants. Also, we can utilize things to help control weeds. Sometimes, have you ever seen your parents, if you have dandelions in the yard, the little yellow flowers, your parents don't want dandelions in their yard. So they might use something that will get rid of the dandelions, but the grass still lives. We do the same thing for the corn because weeds compete for nutrients. And what that means, if you have a corn plant and a weed right next to each other, they're both trying to take water from the soil. They're both trying to take the nutrients and fertilizer out of the soil. So if you want your corn to be really tall, it needs more water and more food out of the soil. So you've got to get rid of that weed so that the corn can have all the water and have all the nutrients and you get your best corn plant. Sometimes, for crop protection products, we don't use the sprayer. Sometimes we'll use an airplane and they'll fly over the farmer's fields. You can also use a helicopter. They can apply fertilizer and crop protection products. You also have something called a field scout. Why would a farmer or a field scout walk a field? Sometimes that's the only way to see how the plants are doing, and you check on it a lot. Just kind of like you, when you're growing up, your parents are always checking on you to make sure you're growing and you're healthy and you have everything that you need. You want to go to the field and see, do we have a ladybug problem? Do we have a grasshopper problem? Is there something that's going on that we need to work on to make sure by the end of the season, we've got a really good crop? All right, are you ready? Hopefully you're watching this with a friend, so we're gonna have a pop quiz time. Let's see who can guess first what this is. What field? It's a wheat field. All right, so we obviously don't eat handfuls of wheat plain. So what do we use wheat for? It goes into bread. It makes flour. Flour makes cake. That's one of my favorite things. It goes into your ice cream cones, pasta, cereal, and it even helps make your chicken nuggets. And I know you're thinking, how does it make chicken nuggets? Well, you have to roll the little nuggets of chicken into something, and that's breading, and that's how we get our chicken nuggets. All right, are you ready for another one? What kind of field have we got here? It's a cornfield. What do we do with corn? Obviously, we eat corn on the cob. Corn on the cob is great, but it's for lots of other things too. Does anybody eat Fritos? Fritos are corn chips. Corn makes corn syrup. Corn syrup goes into your soda that you drink. We also use corn for feed for animals. It also goes into cereal. Corn syrup also can be used in ketchup, chewing gum. We make popcorn out of a certain type of corn. And also corn can be used in various soaps. Okay, you ready for the next one? Let's see if you get this. This is a silage chopper. So sometimes we harvest the corn for just the actual corn itself, but for animals, we will harvest it and chop silage. That is using every part of the corn, the stalk, the leaves, the actual ear of corn. It all gets chopped into pieces and put into the silage wagon. The silage is then stored in a bag like this. Sometimes you see those out in fields, or it might be stored in a silo. Now, why do we utilize silage? What's silage for? I don't eat silage. Silage is for cows. Kind of look at it as like a chopped up salad for cows, but it's made out of all the parts of the corn plant. Now, a little pop quiz for you today. A cow has a really big stomach. Do you know how many compartments are in the cow's stomach? 4. It's kind of hard to imagine, isn't it? I always used to joke to my mom that I had 2 compartments in my stomach. When I was full of vegetables and I didn't eat anymore, I would say I was full, but I always had room in that second compartment for dessert. We're all like that, right? All right, what kind of a field is this? It's a soybean field. So what do we use soybeans for? That's a little more tricky. Soybeans can be used for margarine. It can be used for soybean oil, and you can use that to fry foods. We get soy milk. Soybeans also are for animal feed. We feed that to a lot of chicken or poultry. You can use soybeans in paint, in salad dressing, in tofu. Soy can also be used for biodiesel, and it can also be used for candles. That's a lot of products out of soybeans. This is a combine. The combine is what the farmer drives across the field to harvest the crop. When he harvests the crop, he then is going to take it out of the top of this. We call this the hopper. He's going to take it out of the hopper and he's going to put it in a semi. This is a semi and a grain trailer. The semi and the trailer haul the grain from the field either to a market or back to the farm. If they take it to a farm, they're going to put it in a grain bin. The grain bin is used for on-the-farm storage of grain. It could be for soybeans or for wheat or for corn. This is a grain facility. We haul grain here, and they can dry the grain and they can store the grain before we use it for food or for livestock. Sometimes at the grain facility, we'll have a railroad nearby the grain facility. So instead of us hauling all of the grain out of the grain facility with semi-trucks, we might use a train. Trains and rail cars haul the grain all the way across the country. Sometimes the trains will haul it all the way to a port where it goes on a barge. This is a grain barge. The grain barge is used to haul grain from countries all across the world. They travel across the seas to exchange the grains that each country produces. This is a flour mill. The flour mill grinds wheat and corn into flour that is used in human food like bread and pasta. This is a feed mill. The grain harvested goes to a feed mill and it's made into animal feed. So, I hope you enjoyed this today. We're going to do an interactive series. We'll do more videos, so stay tuned and check with us again, and hopefully we'll have another one in a few days. Thanks.